Okay, so diving into this, we can see that this is around if you've dealt with like international transfers, sending money to different bank accounts, they have this thing called an IBAN, which is a long digit code here. And so I suppose this is our data prep challenge. So for this week's task, we have two data sets. So last week we only had one, now we've got two. So we're probably going to need to join these up at some stage. And as usual, a list of requirements for what to do. Okay, so first up, I'm going to start tackling this challenge in Python, and we'll see how that goes. Okay, so as usual, I've already downloaded the Prepping Data datasets here, so I've downloaded these two into unprepped datasets. There we go, and working in a folder called 2023 of my Prepping Data repo. With me as always to help along the way is, if I run into any trouble, Stack Overflow is here to help me out. My number one place to go to look out for things if I get stuck. We also have waiting in the wings is ChatGPT, but it's at capacity right now, so we can't rely on that too much at the moment. But we'll see how we get on with this task. So let's dive into Python. So I've brought up VS Code. This is the coding software I use to run Python. I think it's really great, really helpful with all the plugins. This is week's one challenge. It's always good to have some of these around because you'll find you'll reuse a lot of the code from previous weeks. So I'm going to go and I'm going to create a new file, new Python file. I'm just going to save that as do week 2. Okay, so I've got that. I want to go back to my challenge and I want to go and copy and paste all this. Comment there. I'm going to use hashtag to comment this out. So a comment won't be executed. As you can see, VS Code is telling me all things are wrong with my code with all this underlining going on here, but these are just comments. These help me understand what each line of the code is doing, and just little prompts for me to what to do next as I'm going through the challenge. Got this done. Okay. Okay, so I know as always if I'm dealing with Python, I'm probably going to need these two packages all the time. I need these two, pandas and numpy. Sort of by standard, I always include these. So if I do this, change that to week 2. So I load my packages, pandas and numpy, and I'm going to import the data. So as we have from last week, this is going to be reading from. So if we take this code from last time, have a look. So this what this code is doing is taking the pandas library. You can see pandas as it's been given this alias or name PD. This just means that every time you reference this package, you can use the name PD instead of pandas. It's very commonly used in all the solutions you'll find and makes it quite quick to then write code. And then can call a function from that called read CSV in this case. Then I'm using this file path to find my CSV file. You just got to remember where down here it will tell you if you've run a piece of code, or it will run from a central folder. In this case, I've got a folder called Prepping Data, so all my code runs from there. So any paths to data sets I need to do start from if I was in this folder. Okay, so this is why we go into 2023 unprepped and then find our files, and then also double slashing any folders instead of a single slash, because this might be counted as like a special character in some cases, and Python will give us an error. Okay, so I'm just going to bring in these two data sets. So we've got one for transactions, copy that, paste that in there, and we've got another one for Swift codes. So we go rename that, copy that, paste that in there. Okay, great. I'm going to give So these DFs, if I give them both the same name, so it will write the transaction data to this data frame, and then it will overwrite that data frame with this data set. So I want to give them different names. So if I call this, say, transact df, and I call this Swift df, should help me now. Okay, I can do, so I can save that, open up this next one. Open up. Okay, so if I go, so in the transactions table, there is a sort code which contains a field which contains dashes. We need to remove these dashes. Okay, let's have a look at our transaction df. Make sure that's come through correctly. So I go top right and press play. That will run that piece of code. So find my Python install and then find the script that I'm in and run that code. So we can see the data's come through here. So as we had before, so transaction ID. So this is our sort code here, which we want to remove these dashes. So I can isolate this source code by using a bit of Python. So if I go and say go sort code like that, that's our Python sort code. Okay, for this, if I'm gonna contain dashes, remove these dashes, typically what I would do is I'm gonna replace it. So I'll replace the dash. Usually you would specify a different character to replace it, but I'm just going to leave it that part as two dashes as empty. So if I do dot replace, so Python knows I've got my column, I've got my replace, so I need to find out what to replace, which will be that dash. I'm going to replace it with. I'm going to replace it with empty. Okay. So now I'm going to just do that. So that will change that sort code to replace it, and then sort code should be then overwritten without dashes. Save that, give it a run. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, let's have a look what's going on. It's not working at all. Okay, these, so sometimes you get different dashes. I don't know if you've ever seen that, where it's like a different dash. We'll just double check. No, okay, it is that dash. Okay. Sometimes I get this, sometimes it's the other way around. I don't think so in this case. So I'll have a little look. Python pandas replace. Oh, it might be because it's a special character. Yes, I'm not a robot. Replacing dash, yeah. So you have dashes. Sometimes they're considered a special character. Okay, doesn't seem to be the case there. So if I remember, there's usually an option for regex. Yeah, regex. If I put that equal to false, so I don't want it to use regex. So regex is like coding formula to help you do kind of text manipulation. Really useful in some cases, but in this case, maybe not so much. Okay, still not right. So I've got this. So it's my data frame. Place that. That. Place a comma with a dash. No, that's more of a file. Okay, maybe I need to give it a name as a string. Dot string dot replace. Okay, okay, that was it. So I needed to give it this operator to call it a string. So then do that. Okay, okay. Remember that next time because it should have been straightforward. Okay, okay. So now I've got that. Fix that. So I can go and transact sort code. I can go and assign this. Get rid of these brackets. Print transact df. Okay, okay, that's working. So we can see that our sort code's been assigned there properly, and it's got rid of the dashes. Okay, use the Swift code. Look up. Use the Swift code. Lookup table to bring in information about the Swift code and check for digits. Okay, so I think that means they want us to join the two data sets together. So I'm just going to go and print swiftdf just so I can see what's going on with the data. That one. Okay. Okay, so I have two columns here, but I think that's the only things I can match on. So on the actual name of the bank. Okay. So what I can do is I can create a field called data frame, which is called data frame. So how this works is in Python. In other languages, you might hear the name join. In Python, I think you can join, but in this case, we're going to use a function called merge. So how it works, I would take one data frame, so my transaction df, we do merge, and I will merge onto the Swift df. Then we need to know how I want to merge them. So do I want a left join or an inner join? Those sorts of things. So I'm going to do how, as in inner, as in you can't have a IBAN code or bank code that's missing some letters. So we want both parts of these to come together. And then we've got to decide what we want to join the code on. So identified here, there's a common column called bank here, so I can join on bank. If you had columns that were different names, you would do, say, left on. You would have to specify left on and then right on. Okay, so say if like this was bank name, I'd have to write bank name here, and then right would be on bank. You know, one to be aware of at times. But in this case, I think we should be all right. Fingers crossed, eh? Okay, let's go and that. Give that a run. Okay, so I've got my data frame come back. I can see this is joined together. I've got 100 rows. I've got 100 rows in my transaction data, so that looks good. It was good to me. We haven't lost anything, haven't gained anything, so all good. All good there. So okay, I can remove these other data sets because I'm now working with all the data together in one place. Okay. About the Swift code and check digits. Add a field for the country code. Okay, hint. All these transactions take place in the UK, so country code should be GB. Okay, so I will go and data frame. I will make country code. I'll just assign that to GB. like that. Yeah. Okay, so I just got a column. Just assign it to a string, and it'll make every column, every row in that column, the same value. Create the IBAN as above. Okay. So let's have a look at this. So it was here. No. So your IBAN is your country code, check digits, bank code, sort code, account number. Okay. I'm definitely gonna have to check that again, but let's go. Let's start pulling things together and then we can just check this is all working. So if I make a new column called IBAN, new line, go to the comment, df, call it IBAN. So just as in square brackets, I can just assign a new column like this, like IBAN, like I've done earlier with country code. I can go here. So I can start pasting different things together. So I know I need country code to start with. And then I'm going to need these check digits. Now, just a question. So I think this should work. So I'm concerned whether Python is going to have issues adding in digits to the alphabetical to letters in this case. I think it's fine because we've got some C1 here, so this should be storing as a string. And in fact, I could probably check by doing print df dot info, if I remember correctly. Let's give this a go. No. So I'll print df.info, see if they have any others coming through, potentially not as strings. Okay, yeah, so my okay. Okay, so my IBAN's coming together, but I have two columns here. So the account number and transaction ID, you can see like int 64, so these aren't going to be strings in this case. So we're going to do some type conversion here. Sort code is because it had those dashes and we did a string operation on it, so that's okay. Okay, so what was next in our IBAN? So it was the bank code and then the sort code. Okay. So this is going to be, so instead of bank code, it's going to be the Swift code. That looks right. Yeah, so this is just a text value, that's fine. And then the sort code. Okay, give that a run. Okay, so raise error, key error, Swift codes. So it looks like it doesn't like this. Maybe I've got, yeah, maybe I've got the C. Okay, I will remove that. Just see whether I've put a typo in there or something. Okay, so yeah, so Swift is in caps. I thought it was something like that going on. So that's right. Swift is in caps. Okay, run that. Right. Oh, okay, so that's in lowercase. Please, please let this work. Yeah, okay, so that's worked. So starting to come together a bit. Now we just need to go and add in, I think the last bit is our account number. these different account numbers. So if I go, I'm expecting if I go plus df account number, it's going to throw an error. Whoa. Yeah, so you can see the type error going on here at the bottom. Can only concatenate, as in paste together, string, not integer, to string. Okay, so I need to go and change the type of this value, which I can use this one called as type bracket and then call it string. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so that's done. That's working. I'm gonna get rid of this info. We don't need that anymore. Print that. Okay, so I've got my IBAN coming through now. So that should be correct. So bit of text, bit of sort code. So quite a long digit code. Okay. Yes, hint, watch out for any string fields, check the data types. Yep, done that. Okay, remove any unnecessary fields, output the data. Okay, so how do they want the data? They are just after, so I want transaction ID and an IBAN. Okay, that works for me. So what I can do is I can just make a new data frame called output df, columns. Actually, no, call it output df, and then from data frame, I'm going to take two columns. I'm going to take that transaction ID, and then I'm going to take that IBAN. Okay, so now I should be able to print output df. Like that. Nice. Okay, so that's coming through as we hoped. Okay, so now I can just go and output this, which will be just writing it to a CSV. So put df to CSV bracket, then I want to give it a name. I'm going to give it a name somewhere that will help with this. So if I pick this string, so I just know it's not actually, that's actually not too helpful for me. So I know 2023, I want to be in the Python folder, and I want to be in this one called outputs. Not Z, but that. Outputs. And what do I want to call this? Call this PD 2023 week 2 score output.csv. Something else I usually add, it's index equals false. So what this does is sometimes Python will write the row number as the first column and then the data. In this case, you can get rid of that by saying index equals false. Okay, so I can. Okay, that. Okay, you see that's come through. So that's our data's come through there. I can just show you quickly what it looked like if you say change this to true. Like say you see there's like a column here that doesn't have a name to start with, and then 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's giving the row number, but because it's Python, it counts from 0 and goes up onwards. Okay, but I don't want that, so I want that as false. Okay, can save that. Okay, let's do a little recap. It's not too bad, not too bad. So as usual, we brought in our packages, pandas and numpy. We didn't actually use numpy at all in this, so I think we can comment that one out. Save that. Does that still run? Yeah, that still runs. So we imported our two data sets, the transaction file and then the Swift codes. We worked out with this sort code how to replace. We had to convert, denominate this as a string operation, then say replace those dashes with empty, with nothing, and make sure that regex was on false for this one, definitely. With data frame, we then went and yes, we had those two data sets and we merged them together. It's also known as joins most of the time. Here we use a function called merge. One data frame, merge it with the second data frame. How we want to merge them. In this case, we want inner. We want to include both cases. We shouldn't have an IBAN that's missing parts of the code, so this needs to be inner. And then we worked out that column to join them on, which was in this case a bank. The bank name in both files both had the same column name, so we just give it this. We can use a little bit of shorthand, just say on bank. Again, if we had different names, it'd be left on, blah blah blah, right on this. Okay. So add the country code field, which was just, hey, I've got a. You take your data frame, you then give a column name, in this case country code, for our new column, and then I can just assign a string to this, and that will make that string for all the rows in my table. And then this last bit on the IBAN. So, bit of caution about getting the names right of your columns, but this is where we're just concatenating these strings together. Python, very easy, just use plus. It makes quite a lot of sense. The one to watch out for, that account number, that we needed to change the type of it. So account number being an integer, a number format. If we do as type string, then we can include it in with all these strings. They asked to remove any unnecessary fields, so we kept our transaction ID and then that IBAN we've just created, and then just to output the data set. So we created a new data frame here just to output, and then output that there. And that works. That came back all nice for us. Okay, so that's Python done. That was good. So now we'll move into R. So here's my RStudio, as from last time. So what we had before, this is last week's code. I'm going to do the same again. I'm going to make a new script. I'm going to clear this terminal with Control L. So now I've got a nice blank screen to work with. I'm going to go back to my Preppin Data challenge, and I'm going to copy this, and this will be my comments throughout, and this will help guide me through the challenge. So I've got this. I will go and give these all little hashtags. Okay, so comment those out. Okay, and like last time, I'm probably going to use these libraries again. I'm certainly going to use dplyr, maybe not tidyr in this case. I generally like to keep dplyr in. It's the smaller library, so less resource being used to load it in, and yeah, it's a bit easier to manage because it only has so much functionality. Tidyr tends to have quite a lot it can do. Okay, so I'm just going to separate these out a little bit. Okay, but I think we're pretty good to go. So if I look under here, so this is where I have my files. I'm not looking for outputs in this case. I want to see my unprepped data. So I've got those here, so I can see those in my R terminal. I'm going to go here, I'm going to go read CSV. CSV. I'm going to pick those files. So it's I'll go 2023. Actually, let's do this. So copy from last time, save ourselves a bit of time. Read from CSV, Preppin Data, week 2. And go transactions. CSV, we need to assign this to a data frame. So as before, I'm going to go transact df, assign that. Okay, I'm just copy that down, and you're going to do the same for Swift codes. Swift codes, and call this Swift DF. Okay, I'm going to change this to week 2 as well. And file, save as. And in here, and week 2. Okay, so I'm just going to check that that's worked. So if I just type Swift DF, let's just make sure that this all runs. So just put control enter. Yeah, so that's come through. Again, you know, we had the same issue last time with R. If there's any spaces between column names, it changes them to dots. Never mind. We will work with this. So in the transaction table, sort field which contains dashes. To remove these, so we just have a 6-digit string. Okay, so we've got my transact. Come on, transact df. I can find that there. I also have my sort dot code in this case. What I can do is a function called gsub. So we've got to find the pattern. So I was quite helpful in this case where it's gone and given me instructions what to do, because sometimes these get mixed up. So I have the pattern, which is going to be the dash, the replacement, which is going to be nothing, and then the x is the what you apply that function on, in this case sort code. And we can test how that goes. That looks good. That looks good to me, so that works. Okay, so we can take sort code and then assign it this one. Okay, use the Swift bank lookup code to bring in additional information. Yeah, about the Swift code and the check digits of the receiving bank. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so in this case, we're gonna need to join these together again. So if I make my data frame, so in R, it's a bit different. It's called join, but the functions, they have two different functions. So you can have left join and inner join. So you have to know which join you're doing when you write the function out. So I can go inner join. You can see here it's coming from that dplyr library. So I go press tab, and again it gives me the instructions on which to do. So I'll put in my two data frames here. So I put in transact df, and then I'll put in Swift df. Okay, and then I've got to find by in this case. So I can go over the terminal and just have a quick look at the different column data frames themselves. So I have a look at Swift df. Yep. And I can have a quick look at transact df. So this function here just shows me the top 6 rows of the data frame. Just quite helpful. I didn't want to just go by the names, because I want to, like, the names may match but the data inside may not. But this is not looking too bad. So I can see here that yes, bank here works. It looks like a good bank name compared to this. Those are really the only ones that are in common here. So I'm going to go with that. So I'm going to join by in this case, and then you need to define a list with C bracket, and then type in the two. Actually, you might get away with this just being bank. Let's have a go. Let's have a go with bank like that. Okay. So let me run all of this. Okay, so go ahead, df. Okay, so I can see I've got my transactions in there, I've got my Swift code as well, and I've got my check digits. So that data has come together. As I was mentioning just before, I thought we'd try this out. You can write it where, again, if you had to do the left, like you had different column names on either side, you would write it in this kind of list format. Okay, so you'd have C brackets starts off your list, then you would name the left side and the right side column names. If you had multiple columns, you would do comma and then same sort of functions again. So column name equals that column name. Okay. But in this case, because they're both named the same, I can get away with just shorthand. Not shorthand, but like a much shorter, simpler code by just calling it bank there. Okay, this one. Next up. Add a field for the country code. Hint, all these transactions take place in the UK, so the country code should be GB. Okay, so this shouldn't be too bad. So if I go data frame, I then do the $sign to denounce a column. I will then write country code in this case. Go GB. Again, I have to give it like a dot in between for this case. Otherwise, going to think the column's called country and now started a new function or some operation over here. So I do that, go Control Enter, and then I have a look head at data frame, so you can see that country code's come in and it's given GB for all those rows, which is great. Okay. Oh, create the IBAN as above. This is always like, okay, just go back to the actual code itself, the actual task itself, and find out what's in this IBAN. But I know I'm gonna need to start off by doing df $IBAN is gonna be assigned to something. Okay, it's gonna say an error here because I haven't finished this off. Let's do that for now, just while I work out what we're doing. Okay, so we've got this IBAN. Okay, so let's do it step by step. So do the country code plus the check digits. Okay. So I need this country code and the check digits. So if you're trying to connect different strings in R, this is not as intuitive if you saw the Python version. So in Python you would just add the two together. Let's see, I don't think this is going to work. Yeah, so you can't do add with strings it's saying in R. So the way you get around this is by using a function called paste. So paste is good. It's very helpful, but you then have to give extra functionalities at the end. So there's another function called paste 0, which lets you just send in a number of columns, comma separated out, that will then paste together, if you like. So if I do this, this works, and we can have a look at this df IBAN. Okay, so this is pasting those string values together. Okay. We do need to check on is some of the data types as well. So I believe this is stru of df, like for structure. So this tells us a little bit about our data frame. So again, it tells us the different column names, the data types as well, and a little brief description of the data. So we're okay in most cases. So a lot of these are character strings. We will have to include this account number, which is an integer, so we're going to need to have to change that later on. But let's get the other columns in there first. Okay, so I've got my country code, I've got my check digits. What else do I need? I need my bank code and I need my sort code without the dashes. Okay. Nope, not Python. Done Python. Df dollar. So we've got my bank. No, it's not my bank. It's my apologies. So my bank code. So that's my Swift code in this case, and then my sort code. So dollar Swift code df sort code. So here we're using the autocomplete to find this rather than me having to memorize the spelling. Okay, so those are coming through good for us. Okay, we just need to add that last one in. So if we try for, in this case, we need to add in that account number at the end. Okay, so if we try df account number, I don't think it's going to work for us. It might. Yeah, okay, it does. Okay, I thought we might have to do type conversion, but we can get away with it in R. Okay, if you saw the Python version, it wouldn't let us, and we had to go and change that data type. But in R, we can get away with it. Okay, we're getting there. So, last couple of steps now. So remove unnecessary data fields. Okay, so if I go back to my task, this is our output data. So they want the transaction ID with the IBAN. Okay, I can do that. So how I would do it. So I'm going to call it a new data frame. I'm going to call it output data frame. I'm going to assign it from the data frame here. So what I need to do is go and pick the columns. If I'm picking multiple columns, how it works is kind of a matrix, a matrices sort of operator. So the square bracket df, if you can pick like 1 1, which will get you the first column, first row. If I was to do say just 1 comma, I would get the first row. You can see that 338 from the transaction ID too. If I do just comma 1, I'll get that the data from that first column. Okay, so that's a way you can find these different things. In this case, all what I need to do also is have multiple columns that I want to return. So I can change this for, so if I do make a list in R, which is this C bracket and then brackets, so you could do, say I want column 1 and column 3 in this case, so that will come back as a data frame, and it will give you the column headings as well, which is helpful. So in this case, I know which columns I want, so I'm going to take this data frame. I'm going to give it a name as well, because if I was to come back to this code, I may not necessarily know that column 1 was your transaction ID. So I'm going to take that and I'm just going to copy and paste that in there as a string, and the same with that IBAN code as well, because I don't know which column IBAN's in either. And we can see that working here in our, so you can see, yeah, I've got that transaction ID and that IBAN coming through. Okay, so if I assign that to output df, control enter, I've got those two. I can just check this one. If I do head just to see the top, so you can see transaction ID and IBAN, which is good. Only issue is, because it's R and it's filled in the blanks with dots, I kind of go and remove those dots. Okay. So the way I can access these column names is using names. So names of put df. Okay. So I've got that. So I need to go, so you can rename these. So typically you would take output names and then you would give them new names. You would assign them a list of new names, so A or A and B, for example, and that would then follow through into my actual code itself. If I then show you hit df, so those columns have been renamed. I don't want A and B. I want just the same names without the dot. So can I be sneaky and use the G sub that we used earlier? So if I was to do G sub, if I can get rid of the dot and replace it with a space, and instead of a column name, put in my instead of a column here, I can put in the names of my columns. Did that come back? Okay. Because of regex, any dot it just describes any character. So how I can get around this is by using backslash to denote that that's not meant to be a special character, but the actual character for dot. Okay, yeah, that worked. So I'm going to take that and put that in there. I'll call this like using not ZZ. This is dot dot. Remove column names. Yeah, so just leaving that comment there, just for anyone else who comes to this and want to know if I'm doing there. Okay, so right output the data. So I want to go right CSV. I've got what file do I want to write? I've got my output data frame. Where do I want to write it to? I've got something from last time, so I can go and take this. Okay, so 2023 in R and outputs. I'm going to call that week 2, just a plain output. Row names equals false in this case, so in R you can shorten false just to F. We should see. So I'm going to go and execute everything. Okay, so R, you can see in outputs, yeah, we can see that data's come through and we can view that file. So we can see that there. Nice. Nice. Okay, I'm just gonna try and tidy up some of these lines because they are a bit long in some cases. Yeah, move that, move that. Okay. Okay, so to recap on what we did, so we Preppin Data week 2, so we went and loaded in our dplyr library. We needed that for certain functionality later on. We had our transaction dataset that we loaded in, and we had our Swift dataset that we loaded in as well. Call those underscore df for data frame. In the first case, we wanted to take that sort code and remove dashes from in between the sort code. So we did this. So we used gsub, which means global substitute or global sub. Find that dash and replace it with nothing. Okay, and then apply it to that sort code column. Okay, so that applied, we removed the dashes in that case, and then we reassigned it to the sort code column. So in that case, we overwrote the sort code column, so it didn't have any dashes. Then we started using the inner join function from dplyr. So in R, we have to state what type of join we're doing. So if I wanted a left join, this would I just change this to left. Same sort of format here as well. So then I state my 2 data frames that I want to inner join together, and in this case, what column I want to join on. If you have different column names, you will need to do like a list of columns. So C/B equals like A bracket. Okay. In this case, because both column names are called bank, we could get away with that. Then we needed to make this country code, in this case GB. So country code equals GB, assigned like that. So that string there, we can just give a string and that will make a column of that string. We then had this big concatenation or pasting together of all these different values. We use the function paste zero. It's very simple. We can just list out our columns in comma, separating them out. Okay, so we did that in succession. Note we had numerical columns, we had string columns. It didn't matter that we could paste them all together, which was nice. So we didn't need to do any type conversions on account number in this case. Okay, so we got our IBAN done. And then we removed all the unnecessary fields, so leaving us just the transaction ID and that IBAN. So I used this data frame, this operator, just to pick those two columns and then assign that to a new data frame. Okay. Then was a bit clever. I used this gsub function that we used earlier to remove the dots in column names for our transaction ID. Recall that R likes to fill in blanks, if you like, fill in the blanks with dots in column names. So I was using gsub just to remove that dot and replace it back with a space in our names for output dx, just so it matches the output we had. I then wrote that data to a CSV file. Again, remembering row names equals false, so I don't have that row number coming back with my data. And that was that for R. Not too bad at all. Okay, so 2 down, 1 to go. So let's get back to our task. So I've got this, and I've got my data in Snowflake. Okay, so I've gone away and I've gone and loaded this data, the CSV files, into our Snowflake environment here, so you can see that. So I've got these 2 data sets there. So I've kind of loaded that in there. I can still query these coming back. That all works. Okay, so let's go and do as I did before. I'm going to go and copy all of this. So we've done step 1. We've input the data, and then we can go and return this. Okay. So as last time, SQL's it's a bit different. I'm not going to be able to do this line by line. I just have to basically do it all in one go, in one query at times. But we can work through this sort of step by step in this case. So I changed Swift codes here for transactions. Go and run that. Okay. In transaction table, there was a sort code field here which contains dashes. Yeah. We need to remove these just so we have an 8-digit string. Okay. So if I start working on this, so if I go and pick sort code, tab sort code. So this is what I want to change. So I comment this out. So I have sort code first, and then every other column, including sort code again, comes back. Now, as we've done before, I think the right term for this is going to be replace. So it's replace a function. Yeah, so I can see it's turned green to tell me it's a function. Just can't quite remember what it does. Right, let's see if it's going to come up and tell me. Yeah, so replace the subject, the pattern, and then the replacement. Okay, so it's slightly different between different languages sometimes. So your subject, so I assume that's going to be my column, the pattern for that dash, and the replacement, which is going to be nothing. Okay, so I'm going to replace my sort code with my pattern, which is that dash, and the replacement is nothing. Okay, let's see how that goes. Okay, so I've got that, come back, again, horrible column name. So I'm going to call this as, not SD, as sort. Okay, so I've got that, that's done, so that's 1 step done. Use the Swift bank code lookup table, bringing in additional information about the Swift code, and check the digits. So basically, it wants me to bring in that data, so I'm going to need to do a join in this case. So I know with these banking terminologies, like you don't have a transaction code or an IBAN in this case, which is missing part of it. So you wouldn't be able to do a transaction, say you were missing the Swift code or something. So in this case, I want both parts to come back. So I'm going to need to do an inner join in this case. So if I go right inner join, I go find my data, PD Swift codes. Okay, because now I need to go and decide what to join these on. Um, Picking the tables is going to be quite laborious if I have to write out this code again. So I'm going to give these an alias. So I'm going to call this one TN for transaction, and I'm going to call this one SC. SC for Swift code. Okay, so this is just shorthand. It means that I can reference these columns without having to write out this full table name. Like quite helpful in this case. So we've got my transaction table down here, which I can see the data from. I can also have a quick look at my Swift codes as well. So there's not much to look up really from Swift code. So this is the information we want to bring in. We want to bring in the Swift code and the sort of check digits as well. The only other thing we've got is bank, which matches over here to bank as well. And we can just check quickly. This looks the same form, but from. So I can just highlight this and click play to run this. Yeah, we can see these are similar columns, so they have the same type of data. This isn't a code or anything. So I'm going to be joining these two on the bank column. So I'm going to do, so from my transactions table STN, I'm going to inner join to my Swift codes on TN dot bank, autocomplete, and then SC dot bank. Okay. So if I run this code now, we should start seeing some more columns come back. So I've got my sort code from before, transaction ID, good. I can then see the other data come in. So I've got those Swift codes, I've got those check digits too, which is good, which is great. So that bit's done. And a field for the country code. Hint, all these transactions take place in the UK, so the country code should be GB. Okay, in SQL, I can do it like this. So denote a string, GB in this case, and let's call this as country code. Okay, so hit play on that. Okay, so you can see that's come through. So I've got now a column just of the string GB again and again and again for my country code. Okay. Whoa, last one up, last big task. So actually go and create that IBAN. So I need to go and just double check what this is all about. So this is this code up here. So we want the country code plus check digits, bank code, sort code, account number. Okay, I'm going to do these two and then come back to it. So I've got my country code there. What I want to do is start pasting different strings together. So in SQL you have a function called concat, so for concatenate, similar to other things we've seen today. So I could go GB like this, and then the next one, which will be, what's it, is a check digits, okay, as IBAN, comma. Okay, so we've got that come through. There is a different way you can do this, which I'll show you. It's the more typical way for me. If you need to paste things together, it's certainly in PostgreSQL. You can use this two dashes or two, not dashes, but straight lines as IBAN2, comma. So go and run that. You can see it's having the same effect. Okay, so yeah, there's multiple ways in most cases of doing these kind of tasks. So different ways of doing different things. Okay, let's carry on. So I've got my bank code. So in memory, this is my Swift code it's coming through, and then I've got my sort code without my dashes. Okay, so I keep going along with the top one. I go to my Swift code there. Then I've got my what was it? My check digits. Nope, not check digits. What was it again? Sort code. Yeah, my sort code. Okay, so I can then go and take this, what I've done earlier, my sort, go and copy and paste that in. So I can have functions as part of this other function. And we can give that a run. And you see that's working for us as well. Okay, last step here is just doing the account number. So account number typically back as a digit, but here in this case we'll see how this works. So we've had one case in Python where it didn't work, one case in R where you could do it, and we're going to see how it works, whether it works in SQL or not, whether we have to do this type conversion first. So I want my account number. So can I just go account number here? IBAN. Yeah, okay, so you can get away with it. You can just go and put IBAN, a numerical value as part of this concatenate. That works fine. I'm just going to check. Can you do it the same way down here? So GB, if I just go and cut to the chase, go and add in my numerical value. Let's see, does that work? Yeah, that works as well. Okay. It's good to know. It's good to know. There's two different ways you don't have to change the type at all. Okay. Okay. So I've gone and increased the IBAN. Watched out for those numerical fields, but it didn't matter. And now I've just got to go and remove any unnecessary fields. Okay, so for week 2, how we're outputting, so we've got this transaction ID and this IBAN as well. So in this case, just 2 columns coming back. So I've got my IBAN here. If I go and put out my transaction ID as a column, come with that. Okay, so I can now get rid of everything else because, say, the sort code is being used in here. GB is fine to get rid of. Stars okay, and that other IBAN we were making can go to. So we go play on that. So I've got my transaction ID and I've got my IBAN coming back. Okay. One thing I wanna do is, so transaction ID is coming in with an underscore here. In the actual challenge, it's got space, so can I fix that? So the way I would handle this, so normally you see I'm doing aliases here, just a single word, or I'll have an underscore in between them, like in country code here. In this case, because I know if I write, say, transaction ID, and I've gone press play on this, SQL's going to say, oh, what's going on here? Because you have an alias and then you have something else that's not meant to be there. So if I go and put this in double quotes, and there we go. I've got my transaction ID in that nice format, and then got my IBAN as well. Okay, so I can go and delete that, delete that. So, okay, so only 2 columns back at the end. Not too much going on here. Just wondering how we can make this look a little bit nicer. Whether we could tidy this up a little bit, whether we could comment these out. So, yeah. Shift tab. Okay. Does that look nice? Okay, do it like that. So then we have it like that. So we can see all the elements of our concatenate in this case. May look a bit nicer, might be a bit easier for someone coming back to understand. So all the elements of this data list, and we've got quite a bit of space here. Okay, so just double check this runs. Okay, so I think we're done with this one as well. So in this case, went through the challenge. So we were doing things. So we had first up that sort code field. We had to go and remove those dashes, which we have here. So we used sort code, took the dash, and then replaced it. In this case, use replace. Find that dash, replace it with nothing. In that case, that got rid of those dashes. We then had to do our join on Swift code, the Swift code table. So gave our two tables aliases because I don't want to have to keep writing this entire string out. So gave them both aliases, then joined on that common column which was blank, had the same data in it, so we could see that was okay. Join those two as inner join because we don't want any IBANs. In this case, they're missing some values. We don't want that at all because that's not a valid account number or IBAN number. Okay, so we did that. We then added our field for country code. In this case, quite simple. Just call it a string, GB in this case. When we had it as a column, we gave it an alias too. Then we went and created our IBAN. So we used that concat function. You also have the case where you can use double dashes between these different elements to paste things together, which also works. Again, we didn't have to worry about combine string fields with numeric fields. We didn't need to worry about that. In both cases, concatenate and double slashes were all okay in this case. Then removing any unnecessary fields, so we just cleaned up the select part of our statement. So we got rid of the star, got rid of any other columns we'd use for working. So transaction ID, and then this IBAN across a few lines. We also did a bit of tidying up for the end. We changed the transaction ID using double quotes to make sure that we got this alias in there properly. That was it. And I just spaced this out onto individual lines just so it's a bit easier to read. Okay, and that was that in this case. Didn't get too stuck on this at too many points. I think the first one was the only in the case of the Python. This chat GPP, has it come back? No, no, we'll leave it there. So we've now gone through, we've done this 3 different ways. I'm going to go and copy and paste this code back into my data area. So I'm going to go and add this, paste that in there. I'm going to go File, Save As, change this to SQL, and this was SQL week 2. Okay, so as you saw, 3 different ways of tackling this challenge. So we have very compact bit of code from SQL. We have a bit more longer bits and pieces from Python. Quite similar with R as well. I think in this case the main difference between them is how they would handle this pasting strings together. So you saw in Python you can add different strings together, but you've got to add in all the different strings, otherwise you have to convert. You can't add a number, you have to convert that to a string using as type. Then with R we were using this paste 0, which is similar to concatenate, and then comma separate them out of different fields. And lastly, with SQL, it was the concatenate again, just with the field concat. And we could also use that double slash, but in this case, not too bad, not too bad. I'm going to go away now and just going to upload this to my GitHub account shortly after this. I hope you've enjoyed watching this, and I hope you were able to achieve this task. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!